Hey there guys, I am the Six Machine and welcome back to another Warhammer video. So we've seen a load of the models for the upcoming Votann range, and presumably we will see a few more this evening at Nova, but on Warcom today they've begun to show us a few of the rules and abilities that we can expect to come with the Leagues of Votann, thanks to the first in a 3-part series which will be going up on Battle Report if you are a Warhammer Plus subscriber. And first things first, we get to see some power costs. It is a Crusade game, so no points, but of course we can do some vague extrapolations from that. At 50 power being roughly 1,000 points, this is the roster they bring, and as you can see, 4 power for a Carl roughly equates to 80 points or so, a Space Marine Captain coming in at 5 power or 85 points, and on the troops front, the Hearthkin Warriors each being 7 power means that we can expect them to be roughly 140 points for a minimum squad, or around 14 points per model. Again, for comparison, 6 power gets you 10 Necron Warriors at 13 points per model. So these are some pretty reasonable ballpark figures to consider. I think if you average it out to 20 points per power, you won't be too far from the mark. But of course, onto the rules themselves. The League being taken, the subfaction being taken, is the Greater Thurian League. Much like other subfactions, these are going to have their own trait, relic, stratagem, and all of that. And this one, Ruthless Efficiency, means that models, excluding cog models, count for 2 while holding objectives, or 5 if they have 10 or more wounds, and it also gives you the very handy reroll of a hit or a wound when you attack with a unit. To be honest, it's nothing super exciting or new or out there. As far as traits go, we've seen both of these kind of abilities before, but they certainly aren't bad. It means your units are going to be incredibly good at taking and holding and stealing objectives from your opponent, and of course with the very strong Dark Age style weaponry that the Votann will be bringing to bear, getting an extra bit of reliability by being able to reroll a hit or a wound does give you a good bit of flexibility and reassurance that you are going to make all of your shots count. So I do think overall this trait seems to be a reasonably good, if somewhat boring one. Where a lot of the Leagues of Votann power is going to come from, it seems, is in their army-wide rule of Eye of the Ancestors. And what this is a rule that lets you gather things called judgment tokens on your opponent. It's kind of similar to Markalites in a way, but it's done by your opponent doing things. So if an enemy unit does an action, you get a judgment token against them. If they kill one of your units, judgment token time. You are going to feel like Judge Dredd by the end of a game with the Leagues, I think, and it's just as well because this rule does look like it's going to be really quite strong. What it does is it lets you enact the Judgment of the Ancestors, and as you can see, what that means is when you attack a unit that has a token on, you gain a buff against them. Auto wounding on 6s if they have 1 token, on 5s if they have 2 tokens, and on 4s if they have 3. Now, I don't know if the Judgment of the Ancestors is going to be the only thing you can do with judgment tokens, or if there will be other abilities that you can do instead. Maybe you get +1 to your charge if they have 1 token, +2 to your charge if they have 2, +3 if they have 3. I don't know, but the only one they show off is the Judgment of the Ancestors, so that's the one we will of course talk about. It is a pretty huge buff. Getting auto wounding on 4s to hit against an enemy unit is incredibly strong and will mean that your heaviest firepower will just be able to shred through pretty much any target that attracts your ire. And for particularly the Greater Thurian League, the subfaction being showcased here, they seem to be all about boosting this ability even further and making it even more potent and making it more accessible and army-wide for your units. But before we get to them specifically, we do have an ability that all Carls have, which are like your HQ choices. They have a rule called Grim Efficiency, and what this does is it basically lets your HQ give enemy units judgment tokens. I suppose this is kind of to help you get the ball rolling if you get first turn and your opponent hasn't done any actions or killed anything. And so the way it works, they don't actually show it off, but I assume this is just you choose a target within 24 inches or whatever, and they get a judgment token. They don't actually explain what it does, just that it helps your HQs give judgment tokens to your opponent. But with the Great Arthurian League, however, you have a stratagem, Appraising Glare, and what this does is that when your Carl uses Grim Efficiency, the selected enemy unit gains an extra judgment token. So straight off the bat, even if you get first turn and your opponent hasn't done anything, if you use that Grim Efficiency ability, the enemy unit you choose is going to have 2 tokens instead of 1, which straight away is going to make your shots so much more damaging into them. And then on top of that, to make it even more powerful, you also have unique abilities called Ancestral Judgments for each subfaction, and of course the Great Arthurian Leagues is aimed at improving the judgment tokens even more. So when your models use this particular Ancestral Judgment, if the target has 1 or more judgment tokens already, it counts as having an extra one up to a maximum of 3. So first turn, if you are using the Great Arthurian League, you can pop your Carl's Grim Efficiency, and then alongside Appraising Glare, your stratagem, and this Ancestral Judgment ability, that is immediately going to put 3 tokens on an enemy unit, meaning you can be shooting into it turn 1 and auto-wounding on 4s, which is just so powerful. It's going to make even something like a Great Unclean One or Mortarion have to stop and think about whether they want to, jump out from behind that line of sight blocking terrain or risk getting shot by so much stuff. It's just not going to care about their toughness at all. The final couple of things they show off for this Votann army in the article today is a Warlord trait and a Relic. These are, I don't think, unique to the Great Arthurian League, they are just generic ones, but they are still both really rather good. The trait, a long list, means that your Warlord ignores light cover with his ranged attacks, and if the enemy has any judgment tokens, you can ignore Lookout Sir, so a rather tasty way to get down and focus some enemy HQs. They can very easily be singled out and shot to pieces by your Warlord with this Warlord trait. And then finally, it also allows you to generate an extra judgment token on an enemy if you manage to destroy an enemy unit that has a judgment token in that phase. So if you kill a unit that has a judgment token, your Warlord can then choose another unit within line of sight of them and put a token on them. So if you manage to kill an enemy unit in the shooting phase, you could toss a token onto an enemy unit that you are hoping to charge in the following charge phase and get a nice extra little boost against them when you are fighting them. So it is a very, very nice trait. It gives you a couple of abilities to make your Warlord a bit stronger, but also helps him to buff your other units and help them to take down their targets as well. The Relic is a little bit simpler, but still very good. Actol's Fortress is for a Shield Crest model only, and at the start of the fight phase, you choose an enemy unit within 3 inches, and it basically has always fights last. This is of course really, really huge. If you've been charged, you can essentially negate their always strikes first charge bonus, or if you are in ongoing combats, you can make enemy units extremely vulnerable, and with the damage output that you can do with your judgment tokens, making an enemy unit strike last could mean you very easily wipe them out before they even get to swing. So again, some really nice potent abilities in the Relic and the Warlord trait. Overall, from everything that we have been shown off today, the points, the army-wide abilities, the relics, the Warlord traits, all that kind of stuff, there do seem to be some very, very strong powers coming for the Leagues of Votann, and that isn't all, because on top of that, we have one more little tidbit that isn't in the article, which has been leaked. I've seen it around on a few Discords and websites, not sure exactly where it's come from, but it seems like the rules for the Leagues of Votann Void Armour has popped up, and as you can see, it's basically Armour of Contempt on steroids. Not only can you reduce the AP of attacks by 1, already a very potent buff that anyone with power armor will tell you, but also your opponent cannot reroll wound or damage rolls against your units with this armor. Now, I think Void Armor is just sort of your generic armor type that most of your units have. I could be wrong, maybe it is a bit rarer, but as far as I understand it, this is the kind of armor, it's like marine power armor, so it's going to be what all of your sort of infantry sized and bike sized models, maybe not your vehicles, but I do think that Void Armor is going to be something that you see across a lot of your armies, and if that is the case, this is a huge buff to pretty much your entire force. It's almost going to bring, I think, an entirely new meta to 40k, because it will make so many special rules, so many stratagems, abilities, psychic powers just utterly redundant, because you won't be able to use them against a large swathe of a League of Votann force. So if this is legit and it is as widespread as I think it is, I do think this is going to be huge for changing up the game, and I would not be surprised if this rule alone, if it does carry over to enough of the army, is all by itself one of the abilities that makes the Leagues of Votann one of the strongest armies in the game. It basically gets you all the benefits of Armour of Contempt, as well as all the annoying no rerolls that we saw with things like the Harlequins that basically propelled them up to the top of the tables for a while. So there we go, that is it for today. Some incredibly strong, incredibly fun sounding rules coming for the Leagues of Votann, and I personally cannot wait to see more about what they have to offer. But as always, what are your thoughts on these rules? Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me, but until next time, I'll catch you later guys.